This special feature of Game Masters Hall is sponsored by Monte Cook Games.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Game Masters Hall. I'm Eric Campbell, and today we're going to be talking to Darcy Ross about Arcana of the Ancients. So stay tuned. Darcy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to have you here because I've been wanting to pick your brain about this ever since it got announced. I caught wind that this was happening, but essentially Arcana of the Ancients, the summary of what we know of it is that it's essentially bringing the world of Numenera into the D&D 5e rule set. Is that correct?
Exactly. The science, fantasy, far future, magic, and technology all intermingled. That goodness can get dragged right into your D&D campaign or 5e campaign. Anything that's run with the 5e rule set will be compatible with Arcana of the Ancients.
That's amazing. I'm stupid levels excited for this because one of the things that I've always loved about fantasy, ever since I was introduced to like Final Fantasy video games, is like Magitech and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And Numenera is rife with that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So you can literally pull that. You guys are designing that to be plugged into any D&D 5e adventure or
exactly. So it's not just a Numenera is this rich setting, right? It's this beautiful setting that started the whole company, Monte Cook Games. I love it dearly. I'm a scientist. It's all where, a scientist can have total creative freedom to imagine very, very strange extrapolations of what science might do in a far future. So that setting's great. But this is not just taking that setting to 5e. It's a bunch of cool creatures and the idea of ciphers, which are kind of one-shot magical items you've hacked together. And further, there's adventures to sort of, how do you bring this into an existing campaign? There are adventures that sort of bring you as the first explorers to have found some, the unearthed ancient past of this place to get all of this cool goodness suddenly into your game.
So it's so much more than just plugging a few concepts into a 5e world. It's its own thing entirely.
Yeah, it's a toolkit and sort of a campaign beginner, and it's going to be a lot of good stuff.
So just to give more context to the creator of this, one of the things that I love pointing out, because interesting thing about the rise of RPGs in the past few years is we're starting to become more familiar with the names of the creators.
Right.
Monte is responsible for creating some of the most beloved and to be like the most far out there like worlds.
Yeah.
From some of his older days working in RPG publication. You said Planescape was, he had a huge hand in Planescape, and it totally reads in Numenera. Like you can see that trajectory has continued.
Oh yeah.
And like
like
Numenera, Invisible Sun, like as it keeps going, it's just this incredible world of just unbridled imagination coming to life. And now using this new Arcana of the Ancients, you're going to be able to bring more of that into your 5e.
Exactly. And one thing I'm really excited about for it is that this particular, potpourri of weird that Monte's been known for has been drawing me to those kinds of supplements for a long time. And I absolutely love Numenera. And there's been this rich growth of all these books of cool lore and bestiaries. So there's a lot of weird of Numenera that's going to be even easier to draw from. Numenera fans are going to be able to take it into their 5e games.
Right.
It's going to open up this whole book line of wonder that people can take right into their 5e games. So I think I'm really excited to be able to access that in a new way.
I'm super excited to find out how y'all are going to translate ciphers. Into
Me
the
too.
5e. Because that seems really interesting,
Yeah, so a cipher, it's going to be, there's one-shot magical items, which is functionally what ciphers are in 5e already. A potion you quaff, a scroll you read and sort of disintegrate or whatever. But this is going to be about cobbling together weird bits of ancient tech. So it'll be really interesting to see, magic items take on this really flavorful, Numenera weird.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the art from the book too, because one of the things y'all are known for is some of the most incredible art in the books.
We work with amazing artists.
Yeah. I mean, that's evidenced in Invisible Sun in a major way.
Yeah.
And that's saying something because I looked through the bestiary for the Strange and Numenera and like, it's mind-blowing the artists y'all hire. It's so good.
And it's going to be them, drawing elves and sort of
cool.
it's going to be interesting to see those worlds collide again.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm just curious, and this is me fishing for information that you're probably not ready to tell me yet, but one of the things that is really excited me about this is for people who really enjoy games like settings like Eberron, who like really like the technology inserted into their fantasy worlds. I'm just really curious to see if there's going to be like interesting crafting rules for tech, or if there's going to be magic that is going to be combined with tech. Like we see that stuff in Numenera and in the Cypher system. So I'm really, really curious. I know just one of my players, Sam Delev, is like super into crafting systems.
Yeah.
And I'm just really curious. Do you think we're going to be seeing something like that? Can you announce that?
I'm not allowed to prognosticate on that. However, I would say that we at Monte Cook Games are really interested in weird stuff. And one of the fun bits of Numenera and Arcana of the Ancients is going to be that there's all sorts of weird stuff that has such a deep history, it's impossible to know what it's actually for. So you're cobbling it together. So it's absolutely not out of the question that how do I cobble this, glowing doodad and that writhing tentacle thing into something useful. I feel like that's on the table.
It does follow very closely a beloved fantasy trope of existing in a world that has previous empires.
Yes.
And Numenera is built in the setting. The original setting for Numenera is 9 billion years into the future. How many years is it?
1 billion.
1 billion.
9 worlds.
9 worlds. That's what it was. So it's called the Ninth World, and it's set a billion years in the future, where civilizations have risen and fallen, risen and fallen, and risen and fallen. So it's a world built on the bones of all these ancient tech civilizations. Some may have gone extinct, and some may have escaped into space. Like we don't know.
Yeah, and so for Arcana of the Ancients, right, there's, for elves and dragons, these are long-lived fantasy creatures, right?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Right? But the premise of Arcana of the Ancients, I think, is that only the faintest memories, perhaps, might remain, even in these long-lived species. So this is time so deep, it's not really anything, it's going to be deep, deep time that you're playing with and unearthing. And surprising a dragon or surprising an elf is going to be a good feeling.
Oh, man. Just picturing what it would look like to come across, like, an adventuring party going into what they think is a dungeon crawl, and then entering a chamber where they find a dragon cryogenically frozen.
Oh, yeah.
Like
proto-dragons.
Yeah. That could be something that would totally fit into that world easily.
Absolutely.
It's just out there enough for Monte Cook Games to like put something like that in the world. And that's what I'm personally really excited about. Like I've been such a huge fan of Numenera because of you guys are really known for splicing genre.
Right.
Yeah, so because when I first got involved in Numenera, when I started like really digging deep into it, I was like, "Is this science fiction? Is it fantasy?" And discovered it was both.
Right.
Like not even. It is not even. It's more accurate to call it like a genetic splicing of these two. Yeah.
It's together. We love mashing up different, worlds, different genres, and I think one thing I really like about the science fantasy genre and that particular splice is that you can go kind of whimsical with it. You can get weird Miyazaki wonder, or you can go really dark with it. You can get that horror, and so I think I think that particular splicing gives you so much breadth for the kinds of tones you can bring into your game. I think you can get really Cthulhian and horrible and dark with it.
Yeah.
You can get very bright and peppy and weird and zany.
I love that about the setting itself, because with the idea of these 9 worlds,
right,
it means that to be blunt, it means nothing you inject into your game is jumping the shark.
Yes.
Like you can completely, it reminds me of just so many instances where I've been able to just suddenly shock my players by throwing them a curveball. And imagine like a fantasy game where you guys do uncover a cryogenically frozen dragon with all this tech going into it. And then that just opens the vista of, oh my God. I mean, it would be cool to run a group. I'm like, now I'm becoming a GM. I'm like, oh my God, I could run a game where I have a bunch of fantasy players that discover that they're in the 9th world and nobody knew it before. And then So it's like the birth of the campaign setting. That would be so rad.
And it's not just that any idea you introduce as a GM is going to be fit somewhere within the setting. It's that your players' wacky ideas also can fit in the setting, right? I just love being able to work in. One of my favorite things to do, though, for a pro tip, is that science is constantly trying to be a lot weirder than our fiction, and it's doing a great job of it. Lots of weird biology. So what I love is finding real life creatures that are so out there that they're unbelievable, right? And just dragging those straight into this weird science fantasy setting. And I love like changing basically nothing about them and having these like secretive actual real life creatures exist in your science fantasy setting. It's so good.
Anytime bioluminescence is used in a character description of a monster, I'm just like,
right.
More of that, please. I want glowing fish in my games.
Oh, yeah.
Just to give an example of how strange Planescape got for people who didn't have the chance to play it, like I had a character that was swallowed by a flying great white shark.
Oh.
So that is something I think it just like playing the weird card.
Yeah.
Something that could totally happen in these games, like where it goes completely into the realm of science fiction, but fantasy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do it to freshen up a campaign you're already in, or when you want a taste of something different. You know, I love going back and forth between different kinds of fantasy, and I think I hit the weird card pretty hard, but it's, you know, there's so many flavors of weird to play with.
So before you go, you guys are holding a Kickstarter, yeah?
We'll see where this goes. Kickstarters are always a bit of a ride with us.
Right,
so.
but y'all have done gangbusters on Kickstarters. I mean, it's pretty clear how many fans there are of Monte Cook Games because every Kickstarter you guys have thrown up has done fantastic.
And we get to try really cool, weird products because people trust us to make something neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's coming up soon, and they can find you at montecookgames.com.
Exactly.
Right. Darcy, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us at Game Masters Hall.
It's a weird time here, and that's why I like being here. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in and checking us out today. I'm here with Darcy Ross, and we will see you next time.